No history of Paducah Junior College would be complete without looking into the contributions of a unique man, one who left a lasting impact upon the institution. When Paducah Junior College moved out to the present location on the Carson property, the name Carson remained attached to the house as it was to the property. But the first building to be named was named after Govriel Rosenthal. Dr. Matheson, would you look back at your first introduction to this gentleman? When did you meet him? When you were interviewing for a position with the college, or?
Yes. I've often wondered how significant it was. On April the 1st, 1936, I came to Paducah to interview for the job. We met in Mr. Waller's office, and it was an august group of citizens of Paducah.
That was Mr. Tom Waller, who
Yes.
was one of the original trustees and a lawyer in the community.
Yes. The whole original board, with the exception of Dr. Bell, I think, was still intact. He resigned when he became president of the college. He resigned from the board. And Mr. Rosenthal had become the first permanent chairman of the board and still occupied that position. Mr. Waller and Mr. Rosenthal conducted the interview with me, and Mr. Rosenthal was especially interested in what I had done at a struggling institution, the experiences I had had, and he was very much impressed with the fact that we had taken produce and fresh meat on tuition and had done all sorts of things of that kind, and he was especially impressed with the fact that I had gone to the people that we owed money, that had stopped credit, and we were buying on business we did was cash business, and not giving it to the people that we had lost our credit with. Mm-hmm. And that I had gone to those people and told them, well, now we ought to be trading with you. How can we work it? And to our astonishment, almost all of them said, every time you do $300 worth of business and pay us cash, we'll give you credit for $150 on your delinquent bill. That seemed to impress him as much as Mr. Waller was impressed with the academic preparation that I'd had and the experiences of that kind. But Mr. Rosenthal was an extreme optimist. He just believed that anything that ought to be done could be done. Uh-huh. And he had that philosophy on the board, and they told me that I had been approved by the board before I left town, and asked me if I'd come back.
They were that decisive. They made a decision on the point.
Yeah.
Well, mm-hmm. Was Mr. Rosenthal an academician, or what was his background?
Mr. Rosenthal's business almost was entirely a business of survival in the world of commerce. Mm-hmm. He had a profound belief in the value of formal education, and he had a profound belief in the value of opportunity for education for a community. Mm-hmm. And that showed in everything that he did. He was completely sold on the idea that every catalog that you published, every statement you made in the paper was a contract with the public. And that if you said you were going to do something, you were going to do it, and you would do it like you said you were going to do it. And I think that probably led to the fact that at least 3 times in the history of the college before I came, he had met the payroll of the college out of his own personal finances.
Was this a loan that he made to the college?
Not a loan. He gave it.
He gave it.
With no strings attached. And I think that he just thought that it was so important for the young people of Paducah to have a chance for an education that anything that he did to make that possible, that he would be glad he'd done it.
And so he put his beliefs on the line, and he acted upon them, and saw to it that this institution persevered.
Yeah.
Well, they made this decision rather quickly, apparently. What was the line of command at that time that when you took over? Did he play any major role in the organizational structure?
Yes, the college had been established according to the guidelines set up by the American Association of Junior Colleges. And they had an elaborate administrative setup, a president, dean, heads of departments. It was real. Would have taken care of an institution of 1,000 people.
Much more elaborate.
More elaborate than we had. And when it didn't work out, they decided that they could eliminate, well, Dr. Bell himself was president, and he saw the wisdom of eliminating that high-priced office, which was only a figurehead, really. And so when I came, Mr. Rosenthal, as chairman of the board, actually was the chief executive officer.
So he acted as the president of the institution,
Yes.
in addition to being chairman of the
He
board.
spoke for us to the Chamber of Commerce. It was not the Chamber of Commerce then, the Association of Commerce, and to the Manufacturer and Wholesalers Association, which actually was the viable civic organization at that time. He spoke to us, to them. He spoke to us to the city commission. He spoke to us, actually he represented the institution to the public.
So he was the public link.
Yes.
He was the spokesman for the institution during those
At
times.
the end of each day, I wrote out a slip of the receipts that we had for that day. A copy of it had been given to the person that gave you the receipt. A copy of it we kept. Another copy went to him with the deposit slip. And I carried it down to his office 5 days a week. I carried it to his
Now,
office.
where was his office?
He was the manager of Rubel Dry Goods, which was really a multi-state organization at the time. He had salesmen as far south as northern Mississippi and northern Alabama, across western Kentucky and western Tennessee, in southeast Missouri, and some in southern Illinois.
Well, as president of this large wholesaling operation, then he would have contacts throughout this region.
Well, and not only that, he had contacts throughout the nation, because at that time he was president of the National Dry Goods Institute, which was a nationwide organization of wholesale dry goods people.
So here we have the typical self-made man
Yes.
who has taken upon himself to preserve this small, struggling institution. And, well, at the time this PJC was founded, it was really a private organization, was it not?
Yes, the concept was, I remember when I came up here to interview, I went by Peabody College and talked to Dr. Doak Campbell. He was, at that time, the secretary of the American Association of Junior Colleges, and I had been in his class 3 summers before, the class on the junior college. And I came by and talked to him about coming to Paducah. And he told me, he said, Paducah is the right size. The junior college movement is going to be the most significant movement in education in the history of education. And he said to be associated with a junior college offers almost unlimited possibilities to a person that's really dedicated. He said, I know that you had enough, as I did, of denominational colleges. And I think that you should take a chance. And if I were you, I would go up there and tell them that you will go along with the situation that's there, that you'll ring doorbells like a vacuum cleaner salesman to sell the college for 2 years. If it doesn't work, then you'll mutually agree to
do something else.
To do something else.
Well, as the spokesman for the community, of the college to the community, I would think then that Mr. Rosenthal would have played a major role when PJC changed from being a private school to being municipally supported. What was involved in that movement?
Well, in the depths of a depression, I don't suppose there's any dirtier word than taxes. And the only way you could have a municipal college was to have taxes. But,
Additional taxes.
yes.
They couldn't even pay the ones they had, but
Yeah.
they had looking at a new tax.
But he believed that it was something that was essential for the community, that they would get their money back, what they put into education of their students. He believed that he was selling them something on which they would get many-fold dividends. And with that in mind, he was as pragmatic as he could be about getting it done. He used his friendship with Mayor Washburn. He used his friendship with the newspaper. He used his friendship with the commissioners. And he was as persuasive as any of the other prestigious people who were on the board when it came down to gritty politics. And I think that Mayor Washburn agreed at the time that other people gave him very, very fine arguments in favor of what they wanted the city commission to do about the college. But the Gov's practical statement of what the returns would be to the city was the thing that swayed him.
Well, how did the vote actually go on within the commission?
There was one dissenting vote.
One dissenting vote.
And that was Mr. Rosenthal's personal physician. It was a blow to him.
That would have been Dr. Pulliam?
Dr. Pulliam, yes. Yeah.
Well, and then the next step would be take this agreement of the commission to the people. And this would be another selling job necessary. I know that you went out and rang doorbells, and I suspect Mr. Rosenthal also had a major role to play in that. Did he enter into the development of strategy for how to get this tax passed by the public?
Well, no, it was not the commission, through an enabling act that had been introduced by Henry Ward at Frankfurt, empowered the commission to do that. So it became a municipal college
with the commission vote.
With the commission vote. The petition gotten up by some landowners in the city to rescind that
vote
was the time when we had the vote problem. Mr. Rosenthal believed very much in precinct organization, and he knew the neighborhood grocers that were around the periphery of Paducah. He knew every one of them by name. And he talked to each one of them about people that came into their stores. And it was a most effective. It was a pragmatic approach to what we're doing. Now, we did a great many other things.
Yes.
But the neighborhood grocers was where he did the big job on that.
Well, of course, at that time, Paducah was more, well, the little neighborhoods were closely identified. People knew each other, and it was a very practical way of getting in contact with a majority of the voters in that region.
Yeah. Well, of course, we've heard the story about Mr. Waller and Dr. Anderson at West Kentucky and the vocational school, and there's no doubt about the fact that that had a great deal to do, because it made there was no such issue as that we're making a school for the majority and we're not taking care of the minority. That was never a part of the program because of Dr. Anderson and of his friendship with Tom Waller.
And so the black vote was
not anti.
Not anti, but in favor, or at least neutral in the case of the tax for the new college. Well, so this technique was very effective at that time. I suspect, though, as Paducah began to grow, that in later years, other techniques would be necessary. For example, when you got around to asking for tax support from the city and the county to be increased. Did you go back to use that same technique, or did you go to something new?
Well, of course, we are getting ahead of ourselves about 20 years, and things had changed. We lost Gov in 1947.
Yes.
I expect that the free advertising consultant that we got from the Sun Democrat, the more sophisticated approach to what we did. But I'm
you
sure
still went back.
We still went to each precinct. We still believed in that major premise of Gov's philosophy.
Get to the people, talk to them, and they'll respond.
Down where they are.
Right.
Yes.
So that proved to be viable not only in the earlier times, but at a later time as well. The fact that the first building named on campus was named for Rosenthal, was there any significance in the fact that you did not name the gym for him or the science building? They were also unnamed at that time. Why did you pick that particular building?
Well, those of us that knew Gov almost unanimously felt that his two strong points was his humanitarianism and his business acumen. And Yale was a building that was going to be the humanities and commerce.
Oh, so it was just a natural made?
Natural for Gov Rosenthal. Now we, of course, at the time of his death in '47, were down 7th and Broadway. We didn't even have the annex. We were in the old YMCA building.
It was rather shabby at the time,
and we talked about doing something for Gov at the time, and there was nothing that had the dignity. When we went and built the annex, the question was, can you name the annex for Gov? Can you name the auditorium for Gov? Well, either one of them would have been all we had, but they simply would not have been dignified enough for him. And it was just almost axiomatic that when we came out on the new campus with new buildings, that the Board of Trustees wanted to do something to show the esteem in which they held Gov. And the National Institute of Dry Goods people gave a memorial to him right after his death.
Oh.
The treasurer of that organization lived in Knoxville, and they sent a donation up here. That didn't buy enough. It did a very, very fine thing. It enabled us to buy the lot next to us on which the old folk home, and that was done with the money from the memorial from the Dry Goods Institute in memory of
and this is some measure of the esteem that these people nationwide held for
Yeah.
Gov. Rosenthal.
Yeah.
Well, when we look at then the contribution of this man to the growth of Paducah Junior College, we see that he played a dramatic role not only as the chief administrative officer, as an encourager of academic programs and meeting the public and concerned with the expansion of the opportunities for the entire community. But was there another side to the man? Did you ever meet him outside of Paducah by chance, or have occasion to see him in a different role than you being working for him?
Well, as most of the people connected with Paducah Junior College in the year 1943, if they happened to be male, they were getting away from PJC. And I was one of those. I was recalled to active duty in the Navy in May of '43 and went directly to New York. I'd been there about a month when Mr. Rosenthal came to New York on National Institute business. And he called me out at the they called me in the barracks and asked me if I could join them that evening for Chinese food, and I didn't know who they were, but I did. And we went down to number 1 Mott Street, as far down as you can go in Manhattan, to a Chinese restaurant. We had just about finished a very delightful meal. There were 7 or 8 of us, when the air raid sirens went off.
Oh.
And the whole city of New York became dark. Well, everybody said, well, we have these every once in a while. They always blow the all clear in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 20 minutes came and the sirens still stayed.
Uh-oh.
A few people began to worry. It'd been on about 30 minutes, and they had 20 minutes, 40, nothing. And then people began to say, well, now when's the shooting going to start? Finally, after an hour and 20 minutes, we decided that we'd better get out of number 1 Mott Street.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had on my dress, navy, whites. We went out of the restaurant, got in the middle of the road because we didn't want to go by alleys.
Yes.
And here I led this group out of Chinatown up to the subway.
So you were not unlike a sun shining in the beacon for the rest of them in the darkness with your white uniform, but you were also the blocking for the,
Yes.
the ones that followed.
I think that we laughed about it after it was over, but Mayor LaGuardia, it turned out, had gone down to, had been driving by a place where a fire hydrant had been knocked over, and the water was spurting up, and they couldn't get it stopped. And he got so excited about that he forgot to give the order
For
all clear signal. And the city of New York on the 17th of June, I think it was, in 1943, had an hour and 40 minutes of air raid.
Well, you must have felt like somebody going through the wilderness,
Yeah.
trying to find your way through the darkness, and Mr. Rosenthal and his company following along
Yeah.
behind you.
Well, well, we looked back on it and laughed, but it wasn't very much fun
No,
at the
I wouldn't
time.
think so.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Rosenthal then, you say, passed away in 1947.
Yeah.
Did his connection with the institution influence any others in his family to attend here, or?
Well, both his children.
Oh, both of
Both
them.
the boys came here. Gov Jr. came first, and then Warren. Warren was here in 1943.
1943.
He was in one of the reserve. All of the reserve programs were accredited by the services, the ones that we had.
Well, did he get to complete his education?
Yes, he and Billy Myrie, who became Dr. Myrie, was in the medical, naval medical, and he was in the Army Supply. All the rest of them had pulled them out when they needed them. Some of them even pulled them out on December the 1st, and some of them on February the 18th. But the Marine Corps, the one other Marine Corps person, the Marine Corps kept its promise to take them out at the end of a semester.
So they got to finish their semester PJC
and,
before
the
they
Navy did
went
the
into
same
service.
thing with Billy Myrie, and the Army did that with Warren. Most of the others had been called up by that time.
Well, on reflection then, if we look around our campus, we see that the name Carson is attached to the residents of the Carsons. That's appropriate. The first building that you see from the road is the Waller Building, named after Mr. Thomas Waller, who was one of the original trustees. Yeah. And then as you come on around, the one we've been talking about, the Rosenthal Building, named for Gov. Rosenthal, and still houses humanities and social sciences and the business offerings of the college. And it seems to me also all quite appropriate that the other building is named for Dr. Robert Gordon Matheson.
Well, at the time, that was a breaking of a precedent. They named it for me, and I was alive at the time. I think they thought I'd be dead by the time the building was finished, but I fooled them, and I'm still here.
Well, but we were changing from Paducah Junior College. The transition was already underway into Paducah Community College.
Yes.
And so it's most appropriate that the last building built under Paducah Junior College should be named after you.
It was out of the ground. It was out of the ground when we went into the University of Kentucky system and was dedicated the next January.
But when it really comes down to it, without Govriel Rosenthal, this institution wouldn't have been here.
Yes.
You said what? He carried the actual payroll.
At least 3 times.
3 times.
At least 3 times. I'm not. I don't know how many others, but I know of at least 3 times in which he did it.
Others had made contributions. They've been significant.
Yes, Mr. Kruger, in a good many ways, was not as obvious, but in a great many ways. He had real ideas about the service that the college could do, and I remember the first summer that I was here, we started commerce. He was president of the War Memorial Group, which raised some $50,000. If it had been, as soon as the war was over, people forgot it.
Forgot it.
And he had he instituted a work-study proposition whereby people 2 pairs would work together. A pair would work together. One would come to school in the morning while the other one worked at the shoe shop. The next one would go to the shoe factory in the afternoon, and the fellow that had been there in the morning would come to school.
So they would actually split the job.
Split the job.
And you'd have on-the-job training in addition to the academic. So you were pioneering new programs there.
Yeah.
Well, so look at the Paducah Junior College over time. We've seen that it has progressed from a small private school organized during the Depression. It was kept afloat by the contributions of people such as Gov. Rosenthal. It then merges with the University of Kentucky and becomes Paducah Community College, and has continued to grow.
Yes.
So it seems that the prospects for continued progress is positive.
Yes, indeed.